So today we're going to be taking a question from one of you, our audience members. TheChattyPug has given us a question. He recently lost his job because of COVID-19 and is immediately pivoting to trying to get business as a graphic designer from a local business. And so we're going to play a clip where he sent in a video to us on Twitter, and we're going to address for all of you guys out there that are in quarantine, whether you lost your job or not. We're going to talk about the strategies that you can use to increase your income. Perrin, are you ready?
I am ready. I've already actually watched the question, so I could prep some answers, but we'll play through it again here, and you guys will get an idea of what he's asking, and then we'll provide some feedback, and I think you guys will find it really, really useful.
Ross, are you ready?
Yes.
I was hoping your video would pop up, but it didn't. Let's play the clip.
Okay.
Hey guys, I would like some advice on my current situation. So, just like a lot of other people around the world, I recently lost my job due to the COVID-19 crisis. And in the lead up to that, I've been trying to start a freelancing business sort of aimed towards video editing and social media and stuff like that, to help businesses sort of in this crisis adapt to this situation. So reach the target audiences of their customers that they're missing out on. So a lot of places are doing like delivery stuff that they weren't doing now, like a lot of restaurants selling different items and stuff like that. So my business idea was to sort of cater to them. And I've recently had a offer from my local cafe guy, the owner from there, and he's interested in working with me. And my question is, how should I go about this? Should I offer him like to pay me weekly, like as an employee, or should I offer him sort of like be paid by per project basis? So I'm unsure how to do it, as I haven't really done this before. So an example of something that I'll be making for them would be like an advertisement sort of like this that I made, and sort of filming stuff for them in their restaurant if they have new products, or if they want to make Instagram posts and Facebook posts and anything like that as well. Any sort of advice, if you guys have worked with smaller clients and stuff like that in sort of local businesses, have you guys got any tips to help with that? And yeah, I'd greatly appreciate your advice. And I love the show, and thanks.
I'm muted. Thank you, TheChattyPug. There we go. I was muted. Oh man, we're doing it live. My kids are going so crazy in the background. Thank you, ChattyPug, for submitting this question to us. For any of you guys out there that want us to address your question like this and just provide you with free advice consulting, we do it like right now. So ChattyPug, first of all, I want to talk, before we get into very specifics about your situation and this small client, I'd like to talk about how you're doing the right thing. You lost your job a few months ago because of COVID-19, and instead of doing the normal thing of sprucing up your resume and going and applying for jobs on the job market, you're looking at, capitalizing on the fact that you're at home now full time, and you are in a position where you can, do remote consulting. You can pick up, clients on a gig basis and on a contract basis, and you can start diversifying your revenue and diversifying your income. What do you guys think? Is that the right strategy right now, or should people be doing that and applying for a bunch of jobs? How should they be divvying up their time right now if they're looking to get new income?
If you're going to be applying for jobs right now, I think you need to be very picky about what jobs you're applying for. Because right now, there still are a lot of jobs on the job market that were there before COVID-19 hit. And so you need to be looking at what kind of service does this company provide? What are they doing? Is this something that can be maintained? Is there a service? Is there business, something that can be maintained during this outbreak? Because truth is, we don't know how far it's going to go. So I think first and foremost, what you did right now, or what you've been doing, is absolutely the first thing you should do. And once you have that down, it's not going to hurt to go check the job boards, but I would make sure you have your other stuff done. Everything that you've been doing, make sure that's what you've been doing first before you go and, to Indeed.com or anything like that.
Perrin, what do you think, amigo?
Do both. I mean, TheChattyPug, you're already in an amazing place. You have a great website. You do great video work. Like you already have the skill set to do this on your own from home. And so, yeah, I would definitely continue on this route looking for local clients, but also branch out. You don't have to work with anybody local. you can work with people around the world. Like the internet is your connection to finding work wherever there is work and wherever there are people willing to pay you for your work. So it's awesome that you're looking at landing your first client. I would say for the people who, do like the resume route, I mean, do what the TheChattyPug here is doing first, and then do both. Send out a resume, and this is like a nice little trick that you can try on LinkedIn specifically. Once you've kind of spruced up a resume and you're doing this freelancing thing, you can use your resume to potentially get new clients for your freelancing gig. All you have to do is type in the type of gig you're looking for. Let's say social media specialist, for example. That's one I'm most familiar with. And then ProStrat, add the word remote to your search query, and you'll find jobs that are looking for remote workers. And now you're looking at picking up clients by doing the stereotypical job search. So you can actually do both at the same time.
Both is a good strategy. I like that. However, what I really love about the TheChattyPug and what he's done here is that he just straight up took our advice that we've been talking about for a long time. He decided that, he was relying on one employer, basically, to pay all his bills for the most part. And obviously he's been doing side hustle for a bit, but he was relying on one employer. And when you only rely on one employer, and Perrin, you've talked about this so many times, they can you for any number of reasons. Downsizing, maybe they don't like you anymore, maybe XYZ, or major items like this can happen with the economy, which, as we're seeing, this happens at least once every 10 years or so now. If we kind of look at the pattern of, the early 2000s and now today, and then kind of in the 90s and in the 80s, like there's always a period of economic downturn every 10 years. And so when you rely on one employer, just generally speaking, you're setting yourself up to be canned at some point while you're employed. And so I like the diversification idea and picking up lots of small clients here, which is what TheChattyPug is going after, because we're in volatile times right now. We don't know precisely what's going to happen with the economy. And in my personal opinion, I think everyone is being way too optimistic right now about how we're just going to kickstart the economy and everything's going to be okay. I don't think that's actually the case. I think the economy will be okay eventually, but we're going to have to see how it has changed now that we've gone through this unprecedented crisis with 20 million people currently being unemployed. Cool? That's the first part, the strategy. How should you approach getting a new job? Now, let's talk about TheChattyPug. How, when you have a new client kind of lined up, warm, ready to go, and you're ready to close the deal and actually start doing the work, he's got a lot of very specific questions here. The first one, of course, the big one is, how do I actually structure how you do work for a small client? How do you structure the agreement? How do you line things up for the client? Ross, let me kick it over to you and ask your opinion on the matter.
Well, it also, first of all, it kind of depends on, I know, like he said, that TheChattyPug said that he's going to be doing some video work. And with video work, I think you can do it by project. Unfortunately, when you're doing something like social media, you almost have to do a straight monthly fee, because there's going to be times when there's going to be some downtime, and there's going to be a lot of times when you're going to be putting in way more work than what you'd be charging for in a project. So that's the first thing. Now, as far as how you go about getting paid, and this is, I know this is something that he kind of brought up in there, and this, especially right now, this is kind of a difficult topic, because there's really, I don't know if there's one right answer. Just based on my experience from working with this, I've lost, just like everybody else, I've lost almost every single one of my clients because of this. And only 2 of my clients actually reached out to say, hey, I'm really sorry, but I'm not going to be able to pay you anymore. The rest just ghosted me. So that's something that you have to take into consideration. You have to be sure that if you're going to be structuring this, will they pay you at the end of the month during, what is obviously a huge recession, a downtime when companies don't know if they're even going to have any money at the end of the month. You have to really be sure that you trust it. You have to be sure that this is somebody who's going to come through for you. You have to be sure that they're actually making any kind of profit where they can. So my suggestion for that would be take half up front and take half at the end of the month. Make it a bi-weekly. And I think that's probably the best route to go. That way if something does come up, which during these times, it's unpredictable, and it's hard to even blame the business or something if something happens and they don't have your money at the end of the month. So I'd say get some up front and then get some, at the end of the month. That way you're not completely working for free if it would happen to fall through.
So I agree with you on the half up front. One thing I would check for that is what is your trustworthiness level of this client, and what is your long-term viability play? So like, are you, and you might not know the answers to this, and that's okay if you don't, but are you looking at this being a long-term client, and does it have the potential of being one? If so, I would still go with the half up front, but potentially maybe look at structuring this as, if it's going to be a regular like thing, is bi-weekly and not getting paid hourly, but doing an hourly log. Because if you're asking for half up front and you're not going to give them any transparency in terms of how much you're doing work, you're going to make them really nervous about having you on board. And you don't want them to be nervous about it. You want them to be confident about it. So I would be as transparent as possible about the work you're doing. You don't need to like specifically log every type of work you're doing, but log some hours, or log the hours in which you are working on it at the very least, just as kind of like a nice transition to keep them comfortable with it. Normally as a consultant, I don't like to do hourly logs. I think I can speak for almost all of us here. We never do hourly logs really, unless like we're forced to, and when we're forced to, we're normally like pretty iffy about it.
Hourly logs are the worst. If somebody's tracking every hour you're working as somebody remote or doing a per project basis thing, that's a huge red flag, in my opinion, that you should consider not working for that client. It means that they're probably the type of person that's going to micromanage you, and they're going to be a really terrible boss. Anybody that doesn't trust somebody enough to be able to just let them do their job as a contractor and needs you to log your hours is somebody that you should probably avoid doing business with, in my opinion. Just straight up leave the situation. I don't have any good experience to share with any employers that are like, log your hours. I'm out.
However, if we're looking at it as a proactive thing, and you have to be careful, you don't want to set a standard where you're going to be doing this necessarily. And maybe it isn't logging hours, but at least showing them some transparency of how you're doing the work, what's going to be delivered, and when you're going to deliver it, so that they know what's coming and that they know that you're working on stuff. So I think that'll be less of an issue, since yours is kind of a project delivery. Like you're going to be delivering them a video product. So they'll be happy when they get that product, and that they get that product when you say they're going to get it. So make sure that you do that. My other suggestion, I don't want to take it because I think, you actually came up with this. You just told me about it before. So I'll let you go over. You had a little bit more on the hourly suggestion, I think.
Yes, I did. So this is inspired by somebody who made my AWOL digital branding that we've all worked with actually for about 7 years. His name's Andy. And he's a professional graphic designer and creative director. And basically, I've taken inspiration from him on how to handle yourself as a multi-client graphic designer. And what you should consider, ChattyPug, is kind of a hybrid of all these different models. You're asking, should I charge by the hour? Should I charge by the project? Should I charge by the week or month? What should I do? Don't charge by the week or month. Definitely don't do that. For a small client where you're just getting off the ground with them. You want to do the initial project for them in a way that makes them feel as safe as humanly possible. So the way that you do that is this. You basically establish what your hourly rate is, whatever that may be. Let's say it's $30 an hour. I don't know, whatever it's going to be for you. And then for the projects that they're asking you to do to kick off the relationship, what you're going to do is quote them, look, I think that advertisement plus me filming in your restaurant, plus all the post, and plus this other thing is going to be 20 hours. I'm just throwing out a number. So if you're doing 20 hours of work at $30 an hour, then that's going to end up being $600 if my math is right. I don't know. And so then you say, look, I'm going to quote you $600 for this project. You see how much I cost per hour. And what's going to happen is, if I go way under 20 hours on this and I only, let's say, work 12 hours to get this project done, I will invoice you for less than what I quoted you for the project. Cool? If I go way over Before I go over, I'm going to give you the heads up as the client that this project is running long. Maybe requirements changed. Maybe there was a snag. And now you know what my hourly rate is. And so if I go over the 20 hours, then I will charge you per hour beyond that. But before I get to that point, I will give you the heads up in either scenario. That way, the potential employer or contractor, in this case, this coffee shop owner, TheChattyPug, is going to know exactly what they're getting in for. They can think about you as an hourly staff member because you told them your hourly rate. They can also think about what the total cost of the project's going to be because you gave them an estimate of what that's going to be, and you let them know that you're working with them. If you're going to go short or you're going to go long on the hours, you're going to do everything in your power to minimize the cost to the client because you understand that they're in tough times right now, and you're going to do your best to help them from a bottom line standpoint. If you do that sort of hourly project hybrid, it's an amazing way to kick off a relationship with the client. That's phase one. After you do project number one with them, and they see that you're a good dude and that you actually do your work, in the way that, you're outlining, then you can do things that are less, complicated, let's say. And let's say he's like, I love that video. And he says something like, can we do this on a more regular basis after you knock this first gig out of the park? Then at that point, you can look at doing something like a monthly contract with them, where you set up a reoccurring agreement with this client. And this goes for anybody out there. This is not just graphic design. This is anybody else. After you do the initial phase where you're kind of hesitant, you let them know the hourly rate and everything, you can do a monthly contract with them where you say, look, we know this first video costs $600. You want me to do one of these per month? Put me on a monthly contract. Look, it's $600 a month. You can count on me coming in every month, knocking out a new fresh ad for you for your business. Let's put this on a 3 to 6 month agreement. And after 3 to 6 months, if we want to continue, we'll continue. If we don't want to continue, we won't. You get me? And so this allows you to transition into having a reliable source of income from one client that started as just one project and then can become something that bounces for you from month to month. And $600 a month over the course of the year is, drum roll please, $8,000, $7,800. I've got it now, $7,200, $7,200 is the final answer. That's a lot of money over the course of the year, right? So be thinking about how you can transition this client into an easy to understand and easy to deal with monthly contract after this, so that they can just think, once they love the job you did on the first video, video is handled. And if video is handled and it only costs me $600 a month, sign on the dotted line, and now video is done for their business. You feel me? So be thinking about the next phase as well while you're putting together this first phase. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I like that a lot. I would add, if you don't have a legal resource to draft up a contract, at the very least, jot down how this is all going to work in an email, send it to them, and specifically get them to reply in some form of agreement, like literally saying, I agree. And I've done this before in email. I mean, you might not have to do it this way, but get them to agree to it in writing in some way, and in writing includes email. They are going to be less likely to bail on you if they've agreed to it in any form of capacity that's written down and not just verbally. So obviously, it's better to have legal resource to help you put that together. But since this is a first client and maybe you might not have that, I would, at the very least, get them to agree in an email.
That's a great piece of feedback. I love that. Another route that you can go, there's two other options. We are not lawyers, and we're not going to give you legal advice. We're just going to let you know what options are out there for people that cannot afford an actual lawyer. So another method is to use something like, and we all use this, we use PayPal Invoice. PayPal Invoice is free to use. If you sign up for a PayPal account, they don't pay us to say this, which PayPal Invoice, if you'd like to, contact us. But what you can do is, in the actual invoice, you just list literally all of the services you're going to be providing. There's a notes section on the invoice where you can put, if you want to come up with, the things I mentioned. Look, this is based on an hourly rate of XYZ. If I go below or under, I'll notify you as soon as possible. And we're going to do this as a good faith agreement, etc. And the reason why it's good to put all of those services that you're going to be providing in your invoice is that provides written documentation that you're going to be doing all these services to your client. You're sending it to them in a really official document that has your name, their name, and all the services. And if you do what Ross said earlier, where you ask them for a deposit up front, whether that deposit is 50%, that's a little bit aggressive in my opinion. You can go for 30% if you want to go down, 30 to 25% if you want to go down. And if you can get a deposit up front of them paying you for the job, 25% up front with that invoice, now you've got written documentation of both parties, the services that you're providing, and the client actually paid you based on that documentation you sent them, right? Is that ironclad from a legal standpoint? If they decide to take you to court later, is that going to really hold up? To a certain extent, it might. And at the very least, it provides really solid written documentation that they have paid for these written services that are right there, and it's not some loosey-goosey verbal agreement. The next method that you can consider is going to a site like LegalZoom.com. Now, people have mixed reviews of sites like LegalZoom.com, but overall, if you search on there for a graphic design consultant template, I would imagine that they have like at least 10 fairly decent templates there that you could probably edit and you could probably use. Is that as good as using a lawyer? No. Have lawyers created the templates on LegalZoom.com? To my knowledge, there's not a single legal document on LegalZoom.com that hasn't been created by an actual lawyer. So that at least gets you headed in the right direction, right? At least a lawyer made it. So that's another option for you. And LegalZoom.com is fairly affordable, okay? So those are your options. Email format for the contract, invoice format like a detailed, or you can go with a lower cost legal option such as a website like LegalZoom.com. What do you guys think about that? Or I think those are the three decent startup kind of consultant methods that keep your costs low, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have a good legal contact friend that you can utilize, you know, these are the alternative options. If you do, that's great.
Right. And once you already have a number of clients, of course, and, you know, in your situation, you're unemployed, you're looking to pay your bills, you might not have money to be able to hire a lawyer for a bit. And so leaning towards the invoice method or the LegalZoom method might be your better option sooner rather than later. So at least you have like a system you've put into place to document, you know, each client, the payments that were involved, the services that were provided, the timeline that was involved as well with something like the invoicing method or LegalZoom, just in case. Because here's the real deal. And Ross, I'll let you talk about this. You were dumped by a number of clients that didn't say anything to you. People's true nature comes out, right, Ross? When crisis hits, when their business goes down and they start losing money. And that guy that seemed like a nice guy might all of a sudden become crazy, right? I mean, let me know what you think, Ross. I can be a little bit skeptical during times like this, but when people get into crisis situations, they can often become somebody completely different, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely right, and it does show people's true colors. But at the same time, we're in a global pandemic. I'm not going to try
Right.
to pretend that I understand what's going on in a business owner's life who has to completely shut down and lose everything. You know, paying the social guy is probably the last thing on their worries right now. And I think in a sense, we have to be understanding of that. And, you know, it's unfortunate that, you know, I was ghosted, but at the same time, you know, the two clients that I did have that reached out to me, and they're friends of mine as well. You know, you develop friendships with these people over time. And yeah, I think that hurt the most is when your friends don't, but when they do, you know, and I told them straight up, I was like, listen, you know, we've got something good going here. I'm not going to be able to dedicate as much time to it as I would, but it does nobody a service. It's a complete disservice to everything we've worked on and you know, and moving forward if they want to continue using when this does pop back up. So I'm still doing a little bit of work for them just to keep things rolling. But yeah, you know, I'm not at this. It really sucks. I mean, this is just a really shitty situation for everybody involved. But the last thing, and it's so much easier said than done. Believe me, I have said every word in the book because of this stuff. But at the end of the day, it's important to realize that you can't pretend to understand what's going on in somebody else's life. You know, like I said, their social media is probably the last thing of their worries. You know, they have employees that are now may not even have a place to stay. They may not have any food to eat. You know, whether or not, you know, a cool quote gets put up on their Twitter account. It's the last thing of their worries. And you have to kind of take a step back and understand that.
That is a really good point. Thank you for sharing that, Ross. That's the human side here. And it's easy a lot of times to demonize employees or employers and people that are contracting you, because a lot of times they're positioned in conversations as being the person in power. The employer is the person in power. The owner of that business is the person in power. But in times like this where their business is going under and they see everything going in the red, they're actually not the person in power. They're actually the person who's in one of the worst situations possible. And they've lost all of their power, and you just got to maybe cut them a little bit of slack. And so this goes back to our earlier point of diversifying the number of clients that you're working with, especially during volatile times. And that obviously results in diversifying your revenue sources. As a result, is the best strategy in volatile times, and maybe at all times. Because I think we all get a little bit too comfortable sometimes when the economy's good, when the money's really coming in on that big client and everything's looking great, and then all of a sudden it can go away with the snap of the fingers. We're not trying to scare you guys. We're literally in it right now. Gentlemen, any closing thoughts on this? Any other words of wisdom we'd want to share with the Chatty Pug today?
I just want to say you're in an awesome position to begin to control your own income and get a great start. I wish you the best of luck. I hope that this first client works out for you. If it does, use that client to help leverage you into more clients. Build a connection, build a relationship there. I'm really excited to see how that turns out. Keep us posted on how it goes. We want to know.
I love it. Yeah. This is great. Well, okay, I want to reemphasize something we said before we started. We watched your little video example there, that little free delivery ad or whatever that we played a moment ago. You're really good, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's a good ad. That's a good mobile ad. But Ross, I mean, you saw that and you're like, whoa, that was good, right?
Yeah, this is fantastic. Chatty Pug, you're great at your work. I saw that in the media. It was like, okay, wow. Oh, you know, as far as your product goes, as far as what you're offering, it's top notch. You know, if we were not in this shitty of a situation that the entire world's in, you would have no problem picking up clients. But my word of advice to you, man, stay positive. That's you know, try to keep your emotions in check. And this kind of goes out to everyone, but you know, we're talking to Chatty Pug. Try and keep your emotions in check. It's so much easier said than done, but you're talented enough and it's going to work out for you if you just keep plugging along and keep grinding.
I love it. Guys, all of you can send us a video, just like the Chatty Pug did today on Twitter @DigitalDropPod. We will literally play your video on the show and we will just provide you with our advice, our thoughts, and what you can do when it comes to your side hustle, what you love. It doesn't just have to be about getting new jobs. It can be about your social media strategy. It can be about your channel. It can be about maybe your media business, whatever it is. Let us know what's really on your mind. Tag us @DigitalDropPod on Twitter. Ask us your question. Pick up your phone and just ask a question and send us that video so the audience can see you, they can hear your story, and they can understand what you're really going through and what your challenges are and what your question is, and we will address it on the air. We're live 5 times a week, guys, so we got plenty of bandwidth here to help you guys out. That's exactly why we're doing this show. So thanks for kicking things off, the Chatty Pug, and we will be live again tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern. Hopefully, I won't forget to unmute my mic and my internet won't cut out in the middle of the show, but that's how you know it's live, baby. So folks that are watching the edited version, they're like, what is he talking about? Folks that are watching the live version, thanks for sticking around. We'll see you in the next episode of the Digital Drop Podcast. Stay positive, like Ross said, and continue to diversify that revenue. It's your path to success, not just during this virus, guys, but I think with the future economy that we're looking at here. Adios.